Hello everyone and welcome to the first ever edition of the Partially Sighted Society podcast. Today I'm joined by 4 members of the team. I'm part of the team as well, Gary. Gary's single and he's confused.
There's only 3 of us.
I am part of the team.
You are part of the team, very much part of the
We know someone who can do a sight test.
To my right, I've got Gary Flack. Gary, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hey, so my name is Gary Flack. I'm an optometrist. I've been an optometrist for quite a few years now. I've been working for the Partially Sighted for 10 years. We started off with kind of 1 day a month, and I'm now doing 3 days a week. It's a fantastic job, very varied, quite stressful at times. Quite often we have to think out of the box. Every person that comes through the door has a different condition, different problems with their vision, and it's my job to help out with my colleagues. So we've got Nickie. To my right is Nickie. You introduce yourself, Nickie.
Yes, so I'm Nickie Johnson. I am the mental health and wellbeing practitioner here at the charity, and I'm an art therapist by background. And prior to that, I've got quite an extensive NHS background working in ophthalmology in eye clinics. I've been working for the charity for about on and off, coming up to a year employed here, and on and off before that, wasn't it, as a volunteer. So I provide one-to-one therapy, sort of a counselling service. I lead some of the wellbeing groups that we have and support with some of the other support groups that go on here at the charity, and it's just fantastic to be a part of really supporting people with their sight loss journey and kind of coming to terms with it and the emotional impact that sight loss has on people once they get that diagnosis. And over to my right.
So I'm Anita, Anita Plant. I'm the CEO of the charity. My background is vision rehabilitation, so I'm all about the practical side of it. Gary and I have been working together, as he said, for 10 years.
10 years.
And we're a bit of a double act. We like to think out the box, and it's all about finding new ways of doing the old things, and that's what we're really passionate about. Yeah, and so that's me. And Shaun, I'm going to go back to you because you are a vital member of our team.
Thank you very much. Feels like it. So my name's Shaun. I'm the Communications Officer here at the Partially Sighted Society. A bit of a tech guru, so I do tech training with people, a bit of loss for sight, and help them make the most of what we've got left when using the wealth of technology that's out there nowadays. I'm also here to curate the podcast as well, make sure everyone stays in line. As you can tell, it's a really fun bunch, and hopefully everyone enjoys the podcast. And,
So, on today's podcast, PSS Podcast, this is our first one, we're going to talk about dry eye. So when people initially come into the charity and I sit down and gather all that information, this is something that comes up a lot, and a lot of people get it mixed up with dry AMD. They say I've got dry AMD, or I've got dry eye, but it's dry AMD. There's a lot of confusion around it. So today I just wanted to talk about what is dry eye and what you can do about it, how you can treat it, how you can live with it, and just answer some common misconceptions around that. So Gary, you're our resident expert.
Ooh, okay.
What is dry eye? What causes dry eyes?
Well, it's a very common condition. I would say around about 65% of people that actually come in to see me actually have it, and it's not necessarily that they come to see me because of it, but it's one of the things that occurs. So dry eyes, quite often dry eyes are, people say to me, yeah, but you tell me you've got dry eyes, but my eyes water. And the reason for that is that the surface of your eye, where the tears are drying out, and that makes the eye water up more, which then runs over, which then evaporates really quickly, which then makes the eye water up again. So although we're talking about dry eye, it is actually the person that actually sits in my chair says, but they're watery, and that's actually one of the most common sort of symptoms. And I think we've got a couple around the table that already do. So Nickie, I think,
Yeah, absolutely. It's really frustrating. You know, your eyes will just start to water sometimes when you least expect it, and you need a tissue, or you kind of need to dab because it just looks like you're crying, and it's just really irritating.
Yeah.
Okay.
I get dry eye, but I don't get the watery dry eyes. I just get the dry eyes where I think, oh, my eyes are uncomfortable, and actually everything's a little bit fuzzy. So Gary, can dry eye actually affect the vision, how well you see?
It can do, because the tears are very, very important for the vision. And if you think about having sort of windscreen that's got rain on it, and if you don't then wash that rain away, you end up with quite blurry vision, don't you? And as soon as you blink a few times or let that windscreen wiper go across, then it does clear it a little bit. But also in the lids there are actually some oil glands, and those are responsible for placing oil on the surface of your eye, which if you think about the lids coming over the top of that, then if there's no oil in them, then they're going to grate quite a bit, and that's usually why we have the early morning dry eye, which is where it's difficult to open your eyes and they just feel really gritty. That's also dry eye as well, but that's more from the oil base that's not there. So, and then the other one is the watery eye, which we talked about, which is more from a point of view that the eye is just evaporating. But again, quite often it's more to do with the fact that there's no oils there. So one of the common reasons for it, I'm afraid, is time. We never use the word age in here.
Oh, no, we're
age
getting
is-
wiser.
And Shaun is the youngest of the lot, and it will come to you, mate.
Can't wait.
Not be that long away.
So what you're saying is, so every time we blink, we're lubricating our
We are
eyes, but
indeed,
as we get older, the
Yeah.
tears are not as lubricating as
That's
they used to
right,
be. So either they evaporate off and our eyes feel gritty, or else they're really watery and they run out in the case of
Very
Nickie.
much so, yeah. And some of the things that we do in our life as well make that happen more. So if, say, for instance, you're sat at the end of the day, it's quite a hot day, and you're going to sit and read for an hour or two, then your blink rate drops to about a third of what it normally is. So you're not actually rinsing across the tears. So of course that evaporates. And the brain actually says, well, that kind of hurts every time I blink, so don't do it, which is actually the opposite of what you need to do. And also when you don't blink, it blurs up a bit. So again, the brain says, don't blink, because so it's a bit of a vicious circle as well with them.
So we need to be blinking
more,
blink,
yeah. And the
blink.
thing is that because you're concentrating, it's that factor that stops you from blinking, because you want to take in all that information. So it's not something that you can say to somebody, just blink more, because it doesn't happen. But certainly there are some treatments that we can do to help out. There are other things, some medical conditions that make it a little bit worse as well. So if you're on medication like thyroxine or you're diabetic, I'm afraid alcohol does cause a few problems as well. Not particularly saying which ones, but most alcohol, they're all sort of rolling their eyes at me now. And the other factor is smoking as well. So all of those factors actually, and we add in the word age into that one, you're going to kind of get a little bit of a dry eye no matter what, really. Yeah.
So would you also say if someone's sort of got a condition that's affecting their vision as well, so they're probably going to be trying to concentrate more with the vision that they're using, because they're keeping their eyes open to try and get more lighting to see, so that can make that's worse. One of the things that people get mixed up often is I've got dry eye, but I've got dry AMD and dry macular degeneration, so they're not the two same conditions. Do you want to touch on that a little bit for us, Gary?
Yeah, so macular degeneration isn't inside your eye. Now, I know we use the word dry, but that's actually more the fact that at the back of your eye, the fluid is working properly, but is not actually then seeping through the retina. So that's much more of a serious condition. Whereas dry eyes that we're talking about today is actually quite a common condition and something you can treat. So you're not going to go blind from dry eyes, and you're not going to go blind from dry AMD as well, but they're quite two different things, really. Yeah.
And I think we'll probably cover that in a different
dry eye,
subject.
AMD is a big subject on its own. Probably a couple of podcasts just on its own, I would have thought as well. So there are a few treatments or some things that you can do for dry eye. One is artificial tears, which are to replace the tears that you've not got. The problem is that you've got to use them.
I'm rubbish. It's not until my eyes are really dry and irritated that I remember to put them in.
Yeah.
And then when I do put them in, they run down my cheek. Half of it goes down my cheek and in my mouth.
Yeah.
So we need some tips on
Top tips.
how can we remember to use them.
Okay.
And how can we put them in without
even the best of the best drops that are available on the market now, when you put one drop in each eye, they only last for about an hour and a half. So if you're only using them in the morning and at night, you've got a hell of a long hours in between that you're not getting the benefit from. But also it's the sort of thing that if I said to you, if you have a headache, you take a paracetamol or a headache tablet and that gets really headache, you don't have to think about it again. Whereas with dry eyes, it's kind of an ongoing thing. So I find that the best way to treat it is to think of some triggers. So when I used to travel quite a lot to work, one of my triggers would be to pick up my keys to get to the car, and I think I need to put my drops in. When I got to work, I had to log into my computer, and while that was logging in, it just reminds me to what to do. Yep, I need to put my drops in, and then I can, at 1 o'clock again, when I come back from lunch, same again, I'm logging in. So it's just finding those little triggers that work. If you are taking medication maybe twice a day, that's at least twice that you can think about using those drops. So put them with your medication rather than in the room. The other thing that you could do is to have maybe 2 of the bottles or 2 of the eye drops, so one's with you and one stays at home. Whereas if you're actually at home but it's at work, then it's of no use. You have to use it.
So what triggers do you think you're going to use, Nickie?
Gosh, it's definitely something I need to work on. But I do all of those things that you mentioned, turning on the computer, grabbing my keys to come to work. So, room for improvement.
Yeah, me too.
I just wanted to add as well, just there are some things that people could consider around, what can also help, which, for me as somebody who uses face wipes, as somebody who, wears a little bit of makeup, just being mindful, I think, of the things that might be in some of the products that we use on our faces, because that can also, it certainly does for me, it can irritate and make that dry eye kind of a little bit worse. So try to avoid powders and things if you can.
So a lot of, say, foundation makeup, which is powdery, that tends to creep a lot. And when I actually look with the machines that we've got, the microscopes, I can see it actually on the lids and also in the eyes. That then rolls up and actually becomes irritable anyway. So a lot of the cream-based foundations actually are better because once they dry, they tend to stay put. The other thing is definitely a big no-no is eyeliner, because eyeliner is where you place the eyeliner. Shaun's nodding his head here.
You need to leave your eyeliner off, Shaun.
Where you put, and I'm actually using my fingers to show you where to put it, but it's not really helpful. So where you put the eyeliner, which is obviously on the lids where they meet each other, those are where the oil glands are. So if you place an oily base over the top of it, you're going to stop those oils. So it's definitely a no-no, and that does help a little bit as well. And face wipes, a lot of the face wipes are actually, they're not that helpful because they are either an alcohol base, which then dries your skin out, which causes more problems, or actually they are just makeup that's not got the colour in them. So you're actually just wiping the makeup around, but you're leaving makeup on the eye, on the surface of your eye, which then creeps. And that literally is what a lot of the face wipes are. There are some on the market, which we're not going to kind of names, but there are some that are specifically made for dry eye or lids. And in fact, some of them you can use, but whenever you're placing any chemical onto the skin, you're adding some more chemicals. So in fact, more natural you can become, the better it is.
So less is more.
Less is more, actually.
So water, warm water, is that what you would say if you're a makeup wearer?
Yeah.
Just some warm water.
Yeah, but maybe trying to avoid the sort of bar soaps, because those are those actually break down lipids or oils, which is exactly what we don't want to do. So it does help with clean your skin, but it also gets rid of a lot of the microbiomes that you've actually got there that help out as well. So kind of a bit of a vicious circle, but certainly with the makeup, as Nickie said, some of the powdery ones, they're not very good. Again, we don't want to mention names, but a lot of the creamy ones that dry, those are actually a lot better.
So as an 80s teenager, I was really big on the heavy black eyeliner around the eyes. I don't do it now, but I do remember when I used to it, my eyes would be really irritated after a while. So actually that's a good point with that, isn't it? Yeah.
So a couple of other things that can make the condition of dry eye much worse is when you're out and about. So things like the wind, we quite often get people say, I take the dog for a walk, come in and my eyes are streaming for 10, 15 minutes. So something like a wraparound sunglasses or even a safety glass would help if you don't wear glasses. Or we do actually do some cocoon glasses, which are specifically made to wrap around so that they try and protect a little bit from the wind as well. And the other thing is, if you are using eye drops, is not to then put the eye drops in when you come back into the room, because all you're going to do is wash those out. So leave it about 10 minutes to allow the eye to settle down and then use the drops, because then they'll stay around more. Yeah. Also, just a thought there is that if you have glaucoma and you use glaucoma drops, one of the things for that would be to make sure that you leave around about 30 minutes between using your glaucoma eye drops and then using the artificial tears. Okay. Otherwise you lose the benefit of the glaucoma drops because you're washing them away. It's quite overlooked, that one, but it is one of the top tips with those.
Nickie, I think you've got some sunglasses that you find helpful, haven't you?
I suffer quite badly with glare as well, just having a really high astigmatism, and actually even for the dry eye, the kind of cocoons that I wear that really support me with the glare actually also help with, you know, the elements, because it really does kind of block the wind, you know, bits of debris that can just be out and about, you know, in the environment. It just kind of helps protect your eyes, and then that kind of minimises those dry eye symptoms. So I think anything that you can do to protect your eyes is
it's quite true about glare as well. The glare is where we're putting too much light into the retina and the pupils, it gets reactive. The eyes are not the intelligent bit, the brain is, but the eyes actually kind of say, hey, don't like that, so what can I do? Well, I'll redden up. That's one thing, to put some more blood in there, see if there's any infection. The other thing is to water up, because obviously if there's something in there that's causing a problem, to wash it out. So it doesn't realise that glare actually is the problem. So by using sunglasses, even on a kind of a normal England sort of autumn day, sometimes when the sun's quite low, if you can reduce the glare, it also helps with the dry eye factor as well. I
suppose it's also protective as well against that UV light, well, so it's decent, you know, good sunglasses, and that's a good thing.
We do it. The last year or so we've started stocking dry eye drops anyway. So if you do have any issues or you need to have a chat, quite often I'll kind of write down a couple of 3 names on the basis that if you do go to a pharmacy and they haven't got the one I've recommended, at least you've got 2 others to have a go at. Just another little point is that good 3 years ago, dry eye drops could be prescribed by the doctor, but of recent, because of the NHS funding side of it, the doctors have been told not to prescribe dry eye drops unless it's a condition that you have that's secondary to it. So for instance, if you had thyroxine, or you're on steroids, or you're quite badly diabetic, then they would do that. But under normal circumstances, unfortunately, you have to buy them yourself. Okay. But other than that, dry eyes is not a condition that you're going to get blind from, but it definitely is something that's an ongoing problem. And as I said, 65% I estimate people that actually sit in my chair when we're having a test will give me the symptoms of it without realising it. So it's good to talk about it though.
Thank you for listening to the Partially Sighted Society podcast. If you have any questions about the material covered in this episode, you can give us a call Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on 01302 965 195, and one of our friendly team members will be more than happy to help. That number again is 01302 965 195. Thank you again for listening to the Partially Sighted Society podcast.